The soft hum of computers filled the observation deck of Deep Space Monitoring Station Horizon. James Reed yawned as he adjusted his headset, eyes fixed on the console's scrolling data. 3 months into his 6-month rotation, and each day blended into the next with monotonous precision. Another quiet day in the void, he muttered, taking the sip from his coffee mug. The station orbited just beyond Mars, its array of powerful antennas constantly scanning the depths of space. Humanity had been listening for decades, hoping for some sign that they weren't alone in the universe. So far, silence had been the only answer. Reed was about to switch to his secondary monitoring tasks when a small anomaly caught his eye. A faint pattern emerged from the background noise, something distinct from the usual cosmic static. He straightened in his chair, coffee forgotten. "Computer, isolate frequency band 422.7, he commanded, fingers dancing across the controls. The pattern grew clearer, a repeating sequence of pulses with mathematical precision. Reed's heart began to race. This wasn't random. This wasn't natural. Computer-run comparison against all known human transmissions. No match found. The computer responded flatly. Reed pressed the intercom button. "Commander Taylor, I need you on the observation deck." Now, within minutes, Commander Emma Taylor arrived, her normally composed face showing concern. "This better be important, Reed. I was in the middle of the weekly report." "Look at this," Reed said, pointing to his screen. "It started about 20 minutes ago. It's weak but distinct, and it's not one of ours." Taylor leaned over his shoulder, eyes narrowing as she studied the pattern. "Could be equipment malfunction. Run diagnostics. Already did. Everything's functioning perfectly." Reed pulled up another screen. "And look at this. The signal has a mathematical structure. Prime numbers repeated in sequence." Taylor's expression hardened. "Where's it coming from?" "TOS CD system approximately 12 light-years away." The commander straightened, running a hand through her short gray hair. 12 light-years. That's practically next door. "And that's not all," Reed continued, excitement building in his voice. "The pattern keeps changing, becoming more complex. It's like it's trying to build the language." "Or a warning," Taylor said quietly. She stared at the screen for a long moment, then turned toward the central communication station. "Open a secure channel to United Space Command. Priority Alpha." "Yes, Commander." Reed continued analyzing the signal as Taylor spoke quietly with her superiors. The pattern was indeed evolving, becoming more structured by the minute. This wasn't just a beacon, it was a message. Taylor returned 30 minutes later, her face unreadable. "They're sending a ship, the Venture. In the meantime, we're to continue monitoring and analyzing the signal. No word of this leaves this station." "Understood." Reed nodded, too excited to speak. After years of listening to empty space, he'd finally heard something that might change everything. Captain Alex Morgan stood at the viewport of the Venture, watching as the last supply containers were loaded into the ship's cargo bay. At 42, Morgan had commanded deep space missions before, but never one assembled with such urgency. "Captain," a voice called from behind him. Dr. Lisa Wells approached, tablet in hand. The linguist had been pulled from her university position with minimal explanation. "The linguistics lab is set up. We're ready to go whenever you are." Morgan nodded. "Good. We launch in 3 hours. Any progress with the signal analysis?" Wells tucked a strand of auburn hair behind her ear. "It's unlike anything I've ever seen. The mathematical sequences are just the foundation. There are embedded patterns that suggest a complex symbolic language. Whatever sent this knows how to communicate across species barriers. Or they're just broadcasting in every way they can, hoping someone understands," Morgan replied. "Maybe." Welt hesitated. "Captain, do you believe we're really going to meet aliens?" Morgan turned back to the viewport. "I don't know, but something sent that signal, and Space Command wouldn't rush us out there if they thought it was nothing." The ship's intercom crackled. "Captain Morgan to engineering. Engineer Wilson requests your presence." Morgan sighed. "Duty calls. Make sure your team is ready. Doctor, if this is first contact, I want humanity's best foot forward in engineering." Tom Wilson was elbowed deep in a tangle of cables. The engineer didn't look up as Morgan entered. "Captain, you need to see this." Wilson gestured toward a large screen displaying fragments of the mysterious signal. "The station sent us the latest data packets. The signal is not just a language, It contains schematics. Schematics for what? Wilson finally looked up, eyes wide with wonder. Technology. Advanced technology. Look at these energy curves. They suggest propulsion systems beyond anything we theorized. And this, he pointed to another section, could be a communication device that works on principles we barely understand. Morgan studied the screen, a chill running down his spine. Are you telling me they're sending us blueprints? I think they're sending us help, Wilson replied. And based on these readings, they need help too. The signal's getting weaker, Captain. Whatever's sending it is losing power. 3 hours later, the Venture detached from Earth's orbital station. As the engines ignited, pushing the ship toward the distant star of Tacity, Morgan addressed the crew from the bridge. We all know our mission is unprecedented, a possible first contact situation. We don't know what we'll find. Friends, enemies, or something beyond our understanding. But we represent humanity now, all its hopes and fears. He paused, looking at each face on the bridge. Let's make it count. As the Venture accelerated to full speed, the signal continued to change. New patterns emerge, more urgent now. In the linguistics lab, Dr. Wells worked tirelessly, piecing together fragments of meaning. It's definitely a distress call, she reported during the first crew briefing. They're in trouble, critical trouble, and they're giving us the means to help them, if we can understand it in time. The journey would take weeks, even with the Venture's advanced engines. As Earth became a distant blue dot behind them, the crew settled into their routines, all while the alien signal grew increasingly complex and increasingly desperate. On the 14th day, as Morgan was reviewing the ship systems, an alert sounded. Captain, to the bridge came the urgent call. When Morgan arrived, his first officer pointed to the main screen. The signal pattern just changed dramatically. Look, the display showed a new sequence repeating with unmistakable clarity. They've detected us, Dr. Wells said, eyes wide. They know we're coming. The message was changing again, becoming clearer, more direct, as if a door was opening between two worlds. Humanity was about to step through. The Venture sliced through the darkness of space, its engines humming with steady determination. Inside the ship, Captain Morgan stared at the holographic display of their trajectory toward Tacity. The alien signal had grown stronger over the past week, pulsing with what could only be described as urgency. How much longer until we reach the source? Morgan asked, not taking his eyes off the display. Navigation Officer Paul Davis checked his readings. At current speed, 4 days and 7 hours, Captain Morgan nodded, his face tight with concentration. The closer they got to the signal's origin, the more the crew felt the weight of their mission. They were potentially the first humans to make contact with an alien civilization. A thought both thrilling and terrifying. In the linguistics lab, Dr. Lisa Wells hadn't slept properly in days. Cups of cold coffee littered her workstation as she studied the ever-evolving signal patterns. Her eyes burned from staring at screens, but she couldn't stop. Not when they were so close to a breakthrough. Look at this sequence, she said to her assistant, pointing to a repeating pattern. It's showing up every 14 minutes now, and it's followed by this new set of symbols. Her assistant leaned closer. Could it be counting down? Wells froze, then quickly pulled up previous recordings. You're right. It's a countdown. Not in time as we measure it, but in distance. She grabbed the intercom. Captain Morgan, I need to see you immediately. When Morgan arrived, Wells could barely contain her excitement. They know we're coming, Captain. The signal is counting down our approach. They're tracking us. Morgan's expression remained guarded. Is that good news or bad? I don't know yet, Wells admitted. But there's more. The signal contains data packets. Massive amounts of information compressed into bursts. We've started to decode them. She pulled up a series of strange images on her screen. These appear to be technical schematics, but for technology, far beyond our current understanding. Morgan studied the images. Any idea what they're for? Some of it resembles propulsion systems, but the principles are unlike anything in our physics textbooks. It's as if, Wells hesitated, then continued. It's as if they're trying to give us a crash course in their technology before we arrive. In the engineering section, Tom Wilson was having his own breakthrough. After days of analyzing the alien schematics, something had clicked. He rushed to find the captain, nearly colliding with him in the corridor. "Captain, I figured out part of the signal," Wilson said, breathless with excitement. "It's not just showing us their technology, it's showing us how to modify our own to be compatible with theirs." Morgan followed Wilson to engineering, where complex diagrams covered every screen. Wilson pointed to a particularly intricate design. "This is a communication device that operates on quantum principles. If I'm reading this correctly, they want us to build it. Can you?" Morgan asked. Wilson grinned. "Already started. I've repurposed some of our quantum sensors. It won't be perfect, but it might just work." Morgan placed a hand on Wilson's shoulder. "Good work. How soon can it be operational?" 24 hours, maybe less. Make it happen." As the ship entered the outer boundaries of the TAV-CD system, strange phenomena began affecting their systems. Instruments flickered, power levels fluctuated, and the ship's artificial gravity wavered momentarily. "What's happening?" Morgan demanded as red warning lights flashed on the bridge. The ship's chief systems officer, Rachel Brown, frantically checked her readings. "Unknown, Captain. It's like we're passing through some kind of energy field. Nothing harmful yet, but it's interfering with our systems." "Could it be defensive?" Morgan asked. "I don't think so," Brown replied. "The pattern seems natural, or at least not intentionally hostile." Wilson's voice came over the intercom. "Captain, the quantum communicator just activated on its own. I think we're receiving something." Morgan and Wells rushed to engineering, where Wilson stood before a device that pulsed with an eerie blue light. The makeshift quantum communicator was alive with activity, though they had never turned it on. "It initialized itself when we entered this region of space," Wilson explained, his face bathed in the blue glow. "I think their technology recognized ours." Wells approached the device cautiously. "Can we communicate back?" "I believe so," Wilson said, "but I'm not sure." He was interrupted by a sudden burst of light from the communicator. A three-dimensional image formed above it. A star chart with a pulsing point of light. "That's where we are," Davis said, having followed them to engineering. In fact, he pointed to another blinking light. "Must be them." The image shifted, showing a massive object orbiting a distant planet. As the perspective zoomed in, they could make out the unmistakable shape of a spacecraft. But unlike any human vessel, it was enormous, with sweeping curves and structures that seemed to flow like liquid metal. Parts of it glowed with the same blue light as their communicator, while other sections appeared dark and damaged. "It's beautiful," Wells whispered. The image changed again, showing the ship more clearly. Now they could see the extent of the damage. Huge sections torn away, energy spilling from ruptured systems. "They're hurt," Morgan said quietly. "Badly hurt." A new series of images appeared showing smaller objects approaching the damaged vessel. The message was clear. They want us to dock with them. Morgan realized they're asking for help. As the venture continued its approach, the alien ship grew visible through their actual viewports. No longer just an image on a screen. It was breathtaking in scale, easily 20 times the size of their vessel. Despite its damaged state, it radiated an aura of advanced technology that made the venture seem primitive by comparison. "All hands, prepare for approach procedures," Morgan announced over the ship-wide comm. "This is what we came for. First contact protocols are now in effect." In the observation lounge, off-duty crew members gathered at the windows, staring in awe at the alien vessel. For humans who had grown up wondering if they were alone in the universe, the answer now hung before them, vast and undeniable. Wells stood beside Morgan on the bridge, her heart pounding. "What do we say to them?" she asked. "What's the first word from humanity to another intelligent species?" Morgan considered for a moment, then smiled slightly. "We say we heard your call. We're here to help." As the venture closed the final distance to the alien ship, the quantum communicator pulsed once more. This time, a simple message formed in the air before them, not in any human language, but somehow instantly understandable to everyone who saw it. "Thank you for coming. Please hurry." The venture approached the massive alien vessel with cautious precision. Captain Morgan stood on the bridge, hands clasped behind his back, watching as the navigation team maneuvered their ship toward what appeared to be a docking area. The alien craft dwarfed their vessel, its damaged hull stretching out like a wounded giant against the backdrop of stars. Approach vector locked in, Davis reported, his voice steady despite the tension. Estimated docking in 5 minutes. Morgan nodded. All boarding party members report to airlock 3. Full environmental suits required. Dr. Wells adjusted her helmet, triple-checking the seals on her environmental suit. As the ship's xenolinguist, her presence on the first boarding party was essential, though her hands trembled slightly at the thought of what awaited them. Security Chief Marcus Stone stood beside her, his imposing frame made even larger by his suit. He carried a standard-issue sidearm, though Morgan had given strict orders that weapons were to remain holstered unless immediate danger presented itself. "Nervous, Doctor?" Stone asked, noticing her fidgeting with her equipment. "Well," smiled tightly, terrified and excited in equal measure. "You?" Stone's expression remained neutral, just focused on keeping everyone safe. Morgan joined them at the airlock, accompanied by Engineer Wilson, who carried a portable version of the quantum communicator. The small device pulsed with the now familiar blue light, seemingly eager to connect with its creators. "Remember," Morgan addressed the team, "we're here to help, but caution is our priority. We stay together. No one touches anything without clearance. If anything feels wrong, we retreat immediately." The team nodded in unison as a soft shudder ran through the venture. They had docked. "Pressure equalization complete," came the announcement over their suit comms. "Airlock ready." Morgan took a deep breath. "Let's make history." The outer door of the airlock slid open, revealing the short connector tunnel that had extended from the alien ship to meet their vessel. The tunnel walls pulsed with the same blue energy they had seen in the transmissions, creating an ethereal pathway between the two spacecraft. "Atmosphere readings?" Morgan asked as they approached the tunnel. Wilson checked his instruments. "Oxygen present, but at lower levels than Earth normal. High nitrogen content. Temperature approximately 15 degrees Celsius. Our suits will keep us comfortable, but the environment isn't immediately lethal to humans." They walked through the connector tunnel slowly, each step taking them further from everything familiar. At the far end, a circular doorway stood closed, its surface etched with intricate patterns that seemed to flow like water. As they approached, the pattern shifted, and the door slid open without a sound. Beyond lay a vast chamber that took their breath away. The ceiling arched high above them, at least 30 meters tall, with walls that curved organically, rather than meeting at sharp angles. The blue light emanated from the very structure itself, as if the materials were alive with energy. Parts of the chamber were dark, however, with obvious signs of damage, sections where the elegant architecture had been torn away, revealing complicated systems beneath. "My God," whispered Wells. "It's beautiful." Wilson's quantum communicator suddenly pulsed brighter, and a soft humming filled their helmets. The sound organized itself into patterns, not quite speech, but clearly communication. Wells moved forward, her eyes wide with concentration. "They're trying to establish contact. Wilson, can you adjust the communicator to send as well as receive?" Wilson nodded, making quick adjustments to the device. The humming changed in response, becoming more structured. Suddenly, a section of the wall before them shimmered, and a figure emerged. The humans froze, staring at their first alien. The being stood taller than any human, nearly 3 meters in height, with a slender form that seemed almost fragile. Its skin, if it could be called skin, glowed with the same blue luminescence as the ship, pulsing gently with what might have been its heartbeat. Where a human would have a face, this being had a smooth, featureless surface that nevertheless gave the impression of watching them intently. Wells stepped forward automatically, hand raised in a gesture of peace. "Hello," she said, knowing the word itself wouldn't be understood, but hoping the tone would convey their intentions. The beam tilted its head, then raised its own hand, a limb with 4 long, delicate fingers that tapered to points. The quantum communicator in Wilson's hands pulsed in sequence with the alien's glow. More figures emerged from the walls. 5, then 10, then more, each glowing with varying intensities of blue light. Some moved with difficulty, their forms flickering as if struggling to maintain cohesion. "They're injured," Wells whispered, "or whatever equivalent they have to injury." The first being approached them slowly and extended its hand toward the communicator. Wilson looked to Morgan, who nodded permission. The alien's fingers hovered over the device, and the blue light intensified. Suddenly, a voice emerged from the communicator, synthesized, but understandable. "You came. Thank you." The humans exchanged stunned glances. Wells recovered first. "Yes, we received your distress call. We've come to help if we can." The alien's form pulsed more rapidly. "We are the Luminina. Our ship is failing. Many are already lost." Morgan stepped forward. "I'm Captain Alex Morgan of the Earth vessel Venture. What happened to your ship?" The being, the Luminina, seemed to dim slightly. "We fled. The harvesters found our world. We were the only ship to escape." "Harvesters?" Stone asked, his hand unconsciously moving closer to his weapon. "They consume everything. Worlds, stars, life." The luminous form flickered with what might have been distress. "We traveled far, but our ship was damaged in the escape. Power systems failing. Life support critical." Another Luminina approached, its glow noticeably fainter. It communicated directly with the first impulses of light. The translator struggled, but fragments came through. "Not much time. Core breach imminent. Remaining survivors." Wells looked around at the chamber with new understanding. "Your ship is dying." "Yes," the first Lumina confirmed. "Soon catastrophic failure. We numbered thousands once. Now only 47 remain." Morgan's expression hardened with determination. "How can we help?" "Take us with you," the Luminina said simply. "Our physical forms can adapt. We need only energy and safety." Morgan hesitated only briefly. "How much time do we have?" "Your measurement." "Perhaps 20 of your hours." Wilson spoke up. "Captain, the Venture can't hold 47 additional passengers, not with life support configured for humans." The Luminina pulsed. "We can compress our energy states. 10 of your crew spaces would sustain us." Morgan nodded. "We'll need to prepare, and we'll need to understand more about your needs." He was interrupted by a sudden alarm blaring through the alien ship. The lights dimmed, then flared, and the Luminina all pulsed rapidly, in what was clearly distress. "What's happening?" Morgan demanded. The translator crackled. "They have found us. The Harvester's scout ships entering this system." Stone's hand now rested firmly on his weapon. "How far?" "Hours away. But they will detect your vessel." Morgan made his decision instantly. "We need to evacuate you now. Stone, return to the Venture and begin preparations for emergency passengers. Wilson, work with the Lumina to adapt our systems for their needs. Wells, gather as much information as you can about these harvesters." As the team sprang into action, the first Lumina approached Morgan again. Its glow it steadied somewhat. "You help us without knowing us," it observed. Morgan looked directly at where he thought the being's eyes might be. "That's what humanity does at its best. We help." The luminous form brightened. "Perhaps this is why the old stories speak of your kind." "You know about humans?" Wells asked, surprised. "Not humans, but beings like you. Solid, adaptable, brave." The luminous glow pulsed gently. "The stars have many children. Today, 2 families meet." As alarms continued to sound throughout the dying ship, the humans and Lumina began working together, racing against time, while a greater threat loomed at the edge of the system. A threat that would soon bring these 2 species even closer together in the face of annihilation. The Venture's corridors bustled with frantic activity. Crew members who had expected a mission of peaceful exploration now found themselves preparing for refugees and a potential enemy encounter. Captain Morgan stood in the ship's main conference room, watching as the first recordings from the Lumina played on the large display screen. "This was our homeworld, Luminara," explained the Lumina who had first greeted them. Unlike the others, Elar had quickly mastered the quantum communicator, allowing for clearer translation. The screen showed a beautiful planet with swirling blue oceans and land masses covered in what looked like crystalline forests that sparkled under twin suns. The sight was breathtaking, an alien world teeming with life unlike anything on Earth. Then the recording shifted. Dark shapes appeared at the edge of the Luminara system, massive objects moving with deliberate purpose. The harvesters arrayed the translator, conveying a tone of dread. The objects resembled enormous mechanical insects with multiple extending arms and central bodies that pulsed with red energy. They moved toward the outer planets of the system with frightening speed. "What are they?" Dr. Wells asked, unable to look away from the screen. We do not know their origin, Eli replied. They appeared in our neighboring systems first. We observed, we studied, we prepared, but it was not enough. The recording continued, showing the harvesters descending on the outermost planet. What happened next made everyone in the room flinch. The mechanical entities surrounded the planet, their arms extending down to the surface. Where they touched the planet's surface, simply disappeared. Layer by layer, the harvesters consumed everything. Atmosphere, oceans, crust, mantle, all devoured with mechanical efficiency. They consumed 4 planets before reaching Luminina. Elar continued as the horrifying footage played. We had time to evacuate some, but not all. Our ship carried 10,000 souls when we fled. Morgan's face was grim, and now only 47 remain. Ear's form dimmed in what they now recognized as sadness. We were pursued, damaged. Many lost containment during the journey. Stone, who had been silently watching from the corner, finally spoke. And you believe these harvesters are heading toward Earth? Yes, Ear confirmed. They follow energy patterns through space. Your sun, your planet. They will be targets. They are systematic, thorough. Morgan turned to his navigation officer. Davis, based on the harvester's trajectory and speed from the recordings, how long would they take to reach Earth? Davis made some quick calculations. If they maintain the speed shown here, approximately 2 Earth years. A heavy silence fell over the room. 2 years to prepare humanity for an enemy that consumed entire planets. Captain Wilson's voice came over the intercom, breaking the silence. You need to come to engineering immediately. In the engineering section, Wilson stood with another Luminina, this one with a slightly greener tint to its glow. They were bent over a complex display showing schematics unlike anything Morgan had seen before. Captain Wilson said, his eyes bright with excitement despite the dire situation. This is Trill, their chief engineer. We've been working on integrating some of their technology with ours. And he paused, searching for words. It's revolutionary. Thrill's form pulsed as the translator conveyed its words. Your propulsion systems are primitive but adaptable. With modifications, your vessel could achieve speeds your science considers impossible. Wilson nodded enthusiastically. We're talking about reaching Earth in days, not weeks. And the same technology could be applied to defensive systems. Morgan looked at the schematics carefully. Will these modifications interfere with the evacuation? No, Trill replied. They will enhance it, but we must work quickly. Harvester scouts are already in this system. As if to punctuate Trill's warning, the ship's alert system suddenly blared. Unknown vessels detected at the edge of the system, announced the tactical officer over the intercom, moving at high velocity toward our position. Morgan rushed back to the bridge where the main screen showed 3 small objects approaching, each resembling miniature versions of the planet consuming horrors they had just witnessed in the recordings. Time to intercept, Morgan demanded. Approximately 4 hours at current speed, came the reply. Morgan turned to Elar, who had followed him to the bridge. We need to evacuate your people now. How soon can you be ready? We have already begun compression procedures, Ear said. 1 hour is needed. You have 30 minutes, Morgan replied firmly. Stone, organize teams to guide the Luminina to their designated areas. Wells, stay with Eller and assist with any communication issues. Wilson, work with Trill on those propulsion modifications. I want us ready to move the instant everyone is aboard. As the crew rushed to comply, Morgan stared at the approaching harvester scouts on the screen. And someone find me a way to slow those things down. The evacuation proceeded with controlled urgency. The Luminina compressed into their most energy-efficient forms, resembled small spheres of intense blue light. Crew members guided them through the ship's corridors to specially prepared quarters, where energy converters had been installed to sustain them. In engineering, Wilson and Trill worked frantically, making adaptations to the venture systems that would have taken Earth scientists decades to develop. This connection here, Trill instructed, indicating a point on the engine schematic. Your materials can withstand the energy flow, if reinforced with the alloy from our communication array. Wilson nodded, making the adjustments. The damaged section of your ship. Can we salvage more materials from it? Too dangerous, Trill replied. Core instability growing. When harvesters arrive, they will destroy it first. On the bridge, Morgan watched the evacuation progress on multiple screens. Status 39 Lumina aboard. reported Stone. 8 more in transit. Their ship systems are becoming increasingly unstable. Wells approached Morgan, her face showing a mixture of awe and concern. Captain, the Lumina have shared more information about the Harvesters. They believe these scouts are just collecting data. They don't have the capacity to consume planets like the larger units. Small comfort, Morgan replied. Can they attack us? Yes, Wells said grimly. They're equipped with energy weapons designed to disable fleeing ships. A new alert sounded. Captain Energy Surge, from the Luminina vessel called the Science Officer. On the main screen, they could see sections of the massive alien craft beginning to break apart. Blue energy spilling into space like liquid light. Final evacuation teams report, Morgan demanded. Last group entering the airlock now. Stone's voice came through. Docking tube integrity at 30% and falling. Morgan made a quick decision. Begin separation procedures. Prepare for emergency departure. The minutes that followed were tense. The final group of Lumina made it aboard just as the docking tube collapsed. The Venture pulled away from the dying alien ship, its engines powering up for escape. All Lumina accounted for, Stone reported. 47 beings secure. Morgan nodded in relief, then turned to Davis. Set course for Earth, maximum speed. Captain Wilson called from engineering. The modifications are ready. Activating new propulsion system now. The Venture shuddered, then seemed to leap forward with sudden acceleration that pushed everyone against their seats. Behind them, the Luminina vessel erupted in a massive explosion of blue energy. On the tactical display, the Harvester scouts altered course, now in pursuit of the Venture. They're following us, the tactical officer announced. Morgan watched the approaching threat with steely determination. Let's see how fast these Harvesters really are. Wilson, give me everything those new engines have got. As the Venture surged forward with impossible speed, Morgan knew they were carrying not just 47 alien refugees, but a warning that would forever change humanity's place in the cosmos. Earth needed to prepare, and they were the only ones who could deliver the message in time. Behind them, the remains of the Luminina vessel were consumed by the Harvester scouts, erasing the last trace of a civilization that had reached across the stars to find allies in their darkest hour. The journey back to Earth was nothing like the outbound trip, where before there had been anticipation and uncertainty. Now there was urgency and purpose. The Venture, enhanced with Luminina technology, moved through space at speeds that defied human physics. Stars blurred past the viewports as the ship hurtled toward home, carrying its precious cargo of refugees and warnings. In the converted cargo bay that now served as the main Luminina living space, Dr. Wells sat cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by softly glowing blue spheres. Each contained a compressed Luminina, their energy forms stable, but confined within the limited space of the human vessel. LR, who had chosen to maintain a more humanoid form to facilitate communication, hovered nearby. Your adaptation is remarkable, Wells said, making notes on her tablet. How are the others handling the compression? It is uncomfortable, but necessary, Ella replied, the translator conveying a tone of stoic acceptance. Many have entered a dormant state to conserve energy. Wells looked around at the pulsing spheres. And when we reach Earth, what will your people need? Space, energy, purpose. Accelera's form brightened slightly. We were scientists, explorers, builders. We wish to contribute, not simply exist as refugees. Wells nodded. I can understand that. But I should warn you, humans can be complicated. Some will welcome you with open arms. Others will fear what's different. Fear is universal, Elle said. We felt it when the Harvesters came. But so is hope. The luminous glow shifted to a warmer hue. Your Captain Morgan did not hesitate to help strangers. This gives us hope for your species. On the bridge, Morgan studied the latest reports from engineering. The aluminum modifications had transformed the Venture in ways that would revolutionize human space travel. They had covered the distance back to Earth in just 6 days, a journey that should have taken weeks. Any sign of pursuit? Morgan asked, not looking up from his tablet. None, Captain, replied the tactical officer. We appear to have outrun the Harvester scouts. Morgan nodded, but his expression remained grim. Don't get comfortable. They know where we're headed now. Earth has just shown up on their radar. Davis turned from his navigation console. Earth Space Control has responded to our transmission. They're confused, sir. Asking for clarification on our arrival time since we're moving significantly faster than our log capabilities. Tell them we'll explain everything when we arrive, Morgan said, and inform them we'll need a secure orbital dock with specialized power systems, according to the specifications we sent. Morgan stood and moved to the viewport, watching as the familiar shape of Saturn came into view. They were entering the home stretch now. Soon they would reach Earth, and everything would change. Captain Davis called out, "We're receiving a direct transmission from United Space Command. Admiral Hayes wants to speak with you privately." Morgan sighed. The debriefing was starting earlier than expected. "I'll take it in my quarters." Admiral Hayes' stern face filled the screen in Morgan's cabin. "Captain, your reports sound like something from a science fiction novel. Are you absolutely certain about these? Luminina and their claims about planet-consuming machines." "I've seen the evidence myself," Admiral Morgan replied firmly. "The recordings show entire worlds being stripped to their cores, and the Harvester scouts we encountered were very real." Hayes rubbed his forehead. "The Security Council is in an uproar. Half believe it's a hoax. The other half are calling for immediate militarization of space. With respect, sir, both reactions are understandable, but insufficient. We need the luminous technology and knowledge if we're going to have any chance against the Harvesters. And you trust these aliens. You've known them for less than 2 weeks, Morgan." Morgan considered his words carefully. "I trust that their home was destroyed. I trust that they risked everything to warn us. And I trust that we need allies in a universe that just got a lot more dangerous." Hayes was silent for a long moment. "Very well. When you reach Earth orbit, you'll dock at Military Station Alpha. The Lumina will remain aboard while a joint scientific and military team assesses the situation. Sir, the Lumina aren't prisoners. They're refugees, and potentially our greatest asset. That decision isn't yours to make, Captain. Follow your orders." Hayes out. As the screen went dark, Morgan sat in the silence of his quarters, weighing his duty against what he knew was right. After a moment, he reached for the intercom. "Dr. Wells, please come to my quarters. Bring L." Earth grew larger in the viewports as the venture approached its home planet. News of their arrival had somehow leaked to the public, and millions of people around the world were now watching live feeds of the ship's approach. Speculation ran wild about the mysterious passengers rumored to be aboard. In the ship's conference room, Morgan addressed his senior crew and Elar. "Earth governments are frightened," he explained. "They want to isolate you while they assess the threat." ER's form dimmed slightly. "We understand fear, but isolation will not prepare your world for what is coming." Wells spoke up. "We need to show them that cooperation is the only path forward. The Luminina have technology that could help us defend Earth, but only if we work together." Wilson nodded enthusiastically. "The propulsion modifications alone have advanced our capabilities by decades. Imagine what we could accomplish with their help on defensive systems." Morgan looked at each of them in turn. "What I'm about to propose could end my career, possibly land us all in military detention. I believe the Lumna deserve better than to be treated as potential threats, and I believe Earth needs their help immediately, not after months of bureaucratic assessment." Stone, who had remained silent until now, finally spoke. "What are you suggesting, Captain?" Morgan's eyes were determined. "A direct appeal to the people of Earth. Dr. Wells and Elar will prepare a broadcast, explaining the Harvester threat and offering the luminous assistance. We'll transmit it globally as we enter orbit." "That's against direct orders," Stone pointed out, though his tone held no judgment. "Yes, it is," Morgan acknowledged. "Anyone who objects can be recorded as opposing this action." No one spoke. Then, one by one, they nodded their agreement. The venture entered Earth orbit 16 hours later. As Military Station Alpha prepared for their docking, the ship momentarily paused its approach. Across the planet below, communication systems simultaneously received and broadcast the same message. Humans around the world watched in awe as Ear's luminescent form appeared on their screens, speaking of distant worlds, terrible dangers, and the hope for alliance. Dr. Wells stood beside the alien, translating and explaining her face, earnest and determined. "We come not to take, but to give," R's message concluded. "Not to conquer, but to cooperate. The stars have many children, and today, 2 families join against a common threat." The broadcast ended with Captain Morgan's steady voice. The choice before us is simple. Stand together or fall alone. 3 months later, Morgan stood on the observation deck of the new joint human Luminina space station. Below Earth continued its peaceful rotation, unaware of the preparations being made to defend it. Beside him, Elar watched as a fleet of newly constructed ships, hybrids of human and Luminina technology, performed maneuvers in the distance. Your people learn quickly, Elar observed. Morgan smiled. Necessity is a powerful motivator. The harvesters will still come. Yes, Morgan agreed. But they'll find something they didn't expect. What is that? Morgan turned to look at Elar. 2 species standing as one. Maybe that's something even the harvesters haven't encountered before. As they watched the Earth below, a brilliant blue against the blackness of space, Morgan felt something he hadn't expected when they first received that strange signal weeks ago. Hope. Humanity had looked to the stars for centuries, wondering if they were alone. Now they knew they weren't. And perhaps together, they might just survive to discover what other wonders and dangers awaited them among the stars. The distress call that had shaken the stars had done more than bring humanity its first contact. It had given them a future,